All right, let's talk. You're probably wondering why a guy who's spent more time in sewers than boardrooms is talking about economics. And not just any economics, but the kind cooked up by a billionaire named Ray Dalio. Sounds fancy, right? Maybe a little out of touch for folks like us, the ones with dirt under our fingernails, the ones building the stuff, fixing the stuff, and keeping this country from falling apart, one project at a time. We're small contractors, often family-run, busting our humps on government jobs. So what's a Wall Street wizard got to teach us? Believe it or not, plenty. See, I've learned a thing or two about how the world really works. It's not always about how hard you swing the hammer. Sometimes it's about knowing when the storm's coming, or when it's a good time to buy more hammers, or maybe hold off. That's where this Dalio fella comes in. He spent a lifetime studying how economies boom and bust like a tide coming in and going out. And if you're a small contractor, especially one tangled up in government projects, that tide can either lift your boat or smash it against the rocks. This isn't about getting rich quick. It's about survival. It's about understanding the bigger picture so you're not blindsided. Government contracts can seem like a steady gig. The government always needs roads paved, buildings fixed, and pipes laid. But the money for those projects? That comes from an economy that's always moving, always changing. Ignoring that is like ignoring a dark cloud rolling in while you're trying to pour concrete. You might get the job done, but you're going to get soaked. So we're going to dig into some of Dalio's big ideas. We'll translate them from Wall Street speak into plain English, the kind of English you'd hear on a job site, not in a lecture hall. We'll see how his insights can help you navigate the tricky waters of government contracting. Think of it as another tool in your belt. Not a shiny new power tool maybe, but one that could save your business when things get tough. And let's be honest, things always get tough. Sooner or later, that's just the nature of the beast. So who is this Ray Dalio? He's a big shot investor, runs one of the biggest hedge funds in the world. Now, hedge fund sounds complicated, and it is. But what Dalio is really good at is seeing patterns. He looks at history, at how money moves, how debts pile up, and how countries get rich or go broke. He says economies move in cycles, kind of like seasons. There are good times, the boom years, when everyone's spending and building. Then things slow down and sometimes they go bust. It's not random, there are reasons. Dalio talks a lot about debt, not just your credit card debt, but big national level debt. He says that too much debt for too long can cause serious problems. Think of it like this. You keep borrowing to fix your old truck. For a while it works, but eventually the repair bills and the loan payments get so high you can't afford gas. That's what happens to economies. They can get over-leveraged. He also points out that these cycles aren't short. Some of them last for decades, even a lifetime. They are long, slow waves. One of his key ideas is the economic machine. It's how he describes all the transactions, all the buying and selling that make the economy go. Productivity growth is one engine, people getting better at making stuff. Then there's the short-term debt cycle, lasting maybe 5 to 8 years. And the long-term debt cycle, stretching out 50 to 75 years. These cycles overlap and interact. It's like watching a complex piece of machinery, lots of moving parts. If one part breaks, the whole thing can seize up. Understanding this machine is crucial. Now, why should you, a contractor trying to bid on a new school renovation, care about these grand cycles? Because they affect everything. They affect interest rates, which means how much it costs you to borrow money for equipment. They affect government budgets, which means how many projects are available and how quickly you get paid. They affect the price of materials from steel to lumber. These aren't just abstract theories, they hit your bottom line hard. Dalio's work is about understanding these forces so you're not just a cork tossed around in the economic ocean. Government contracts might feel like a safe harbor. The feds, the state, the city, they always need something built or fixed, right? And they usually pay their bills eventually. But don't let that lull you into a false sense of security. Those government projects are directly tied to the economic cycles Dalio talks about. When the economy is booming, tax revenues are up. Governments feel flush with cash. They launch ambitious infrastructure projects, more work for contractors like you. Life is good, or seems to be. But what happens when the cycle turns? When the economy slows down, tax revenues shrink. Suddenly government budgets get tight. Those big projects might get delayed, downsized, or even cancelled. New projects, forget about it for a while. You could have bids out, plans made, even equipment bought, only to find the rug pulled out from under you. This isn't a maybe, it's a certainty if you're in this game long enough. Dalio's cycles predict these shifts. Understanding that a downturn is not just bad luck, but part of a larger pattern is the first step. Think about the Great Recession back in 2008. Dalio was one of the few who saw the debt bubble getting too big. When it burst, government spending at all levels took a massive hit. Infrastructure projects dried up almost overnight. Contractors who were over-leveraged, who hadn't built up a cash cushion, went under. It was brutal. Those who understood the cyclical nature of things, who maybe had diversified or saved during the good times, were better positioned to weather that storm. They knew winter was coming, even if summer felt endless. It's not just about projects disappearing. Even existing projects can get squeezed. Governments might try to renegotiate terms. Payments might get slower. Inspections could become more nitpicky as officials try to stretch every dollar. This is where knowing about economic cycles helps you plan. It's not about predicting the exact day the economy will turn. It's about recognizing the signs. Are interest rates creeping up? Is national debt a hot topic? Are material prices getting volatile? These are clues that the season might be changing on your job site. Section 4, the price of hard hats and handshakes, navigating labor costs and union rules. Let's talk about something that hits your wallet directly, labor costs. If you're doing government work, chances are you're dealing with prevailing wage laws. Things like Davis-Bacon, and often you're working with unions or under project labor agreements, PLAs. Now, I'm not here to bash unions. They fight for good wages and safe conditions, and that's important. But for a small contractor, these rules mean your labor costs are high. Often, they are non-negotiable. This is a fixed reality of government contracting. These high labor costs make your bidding process incredibly tight. You don't have much wiggle room. If you bid too high, you don't get the job. If you bid too low, you get the job, but lose your shirt paying your crew. This is where understanding your numbers, down to the penny, is critical. But it's also where Dalio's economic insights come back into play. During economic boom times, skilled labor gets even scarcer. Wages, even within union scales, might face upward pressure due to demand. You need to anticipate this. Now consider a downturn. You might think labor costs would ease, but with PLAs and prevailing wages, those costs often remain stubbornly high. Your revenue might shrink due to fewer projects, but your biggest expense line item, labor, doesn't shrink proportionally. This can squeeze your margins to the vanishing point. This is where strong cash flow management becomes your lifeline. You need enough cash on hand to cover those hefty payrolls, even when payments from the government are slow or new work is scarce. Dalio often stresses the importance of having liquidity. So how do you manage this? First, by knowing the rules inside and out. Understand every line of that PLA. Second, by being incredibly efficient. Your crews need to be productive. No wasted time, no wasted motion. Third, by building those labor costs accurately into your bids, with a contingency for a bit of wage inflation if the economy is hot. And finally, by listening to Dalio's broader economic forecasts. If he's signaling a potential slowdown, you know you need to be even more careful with your cash, because those labor checks will keep coming. Boom or bust. Section 5. When the going gets tough, delays, empty pockets, and thinking on your feet. Project delays are a fact of life in construction. Weather, material shortages, unexpected site conditions, you name it. But in government contracting, delays can take on a whole new dimension. Funding issues, bureaucratic red tape, changes in political administrations, community opposition. The list goes on. These aren't just annoying. They can be financially devastating for a small contractor. You've got equipment tied up, crews you might need to pay even if they're idled, and your own cash flow drying up while you wait for things to get moving again. This is where Dalio's emphasis on preparing for the unexpected really hits home. He talks about stress testing your finances. What happens if a major project gets delayed by 6 months or a year? Can your business survive that? Many contractors operate on thin margins. A prolonged delay, especially if you've already sunk costs into mobilization, can be a death knell. You need a financial cushion. You need reserves. This isn't just about being conservative, it's about being realistic in an often unpredictable environment. Then there are the financial challenges beyond just delays. Slow payments are notorious in some government jobs. You finish a phase of work, submit your invoice, and then you wait and wait. Meanwhile, you've got payroll to meet, suppliers to pay, and your own bills stacking up. If the broader economy is tightening, as Dalio's cycles might predict, governments can become even slower to pay as they try to manage their own cash flow. This puts an enormous strain on small businesses that don't have deep pockets. So, what's the answer? Adaptability and strategic planning. You need to have a plan B and maybe a plan C. Can you shift resources to another project if one gets stuck? Do you have a line of credit you can tap in an emergency, and have you factored in the cost of that credit? Are you diversifying your client base so you're not solely reliant on one government agency or one type of project? Dalio's principles encourage looking ahead, anticipating problems, and building resilience. It's about not being caught flat-footed when the inevitable hiccup or full-blown crisis arrives. Section 6, smarter, not just harder, cashing in on Dalio's wisdom for your contracting business. So we've talked about Ray Dalio, economic cycles, labor costs, delays, and the general headaches of government contracting. What's the big takeaway? It's this: understanding these bigger economic forces isn't just for Wall Street guys, it's for you, the contractor on the front lines. Applying Dalio's insights can make a real practical difference in how you run your business, how you bid on jobs, and ultimately how you not just survive but thrive in a tough industry. It's about working smarter, not just harder. One practical benefit is better strategic planning. When you understand that economies move in cycles, you can adjust your business strategy accordingly. During boom times, you might focus on growth, investing in new equipment and hiring more crew. But you'll also be tucking away more cash, building that rainy day fund, because you know the boom won't last forever. When signs point to a downturn, you might become more conservative with bidding, focus on efficiency, and explore ways to diversify your services or client base. This foresight is invaluable. Improved financial management is another key gain. Dalio's work highlights the dangers of too much debt and the importance of cash flow. For a contractor, this means being cautious about taking on debt for expansion, especially if the economic outlook is uncertain. It means managing your cash flow like a hawk, knowing your break-even points, and having enough reserves to cover those high fixed labor costs and unexpected project delays. This financial discipline can be the difference between weathering a storm and going under. Ultimately, applying Dalio's wisdom helps you become more adaptable and resilient. The world of government contracting is always changing. Economic conditions shift, political priorities change, and new regulations come along. Businesses that can anticipate these changes, adapt their strategies, and remain financially sound are the ones that will succeed in the long run. It's not about having a crystal ball, it's about understanding the patterns, preparing for different scenarios, and being ready to make smart decisions. That's the kind of practical wisdom that keeps good contractors in business, building the things we all depend on.